Here's our postage stamp with Fibonacci and the Fibonacci sequence. This, recall, is the Book of Squares written by Fibonacci in the year 1250, and in the beginning of this book he shows that relationship between the sequence of squares and the sequence of odd numbers that we like so much. Well, it turns out that Fibonacci also writes the first European algebra book. This is it. I bought it on Amazon.com. Let's go to the computer now and I want to show you a couple things about it. So here's Fibonacci's book written in the year 1202. This translation is from 2003. Here's what the Mathematics Association of America has to say about this book. No other book did more to establish the basic framework of arithmetic and algebra as they developed in the Western world. So Fibonacci's algebra book, no other book had more influence on arithmetic and algebra as they developed in the Western world. This is it. This is the book. Let's go back to the computer here for a second. I want to show you where Fibonacci was born. Okay, so Fibonacci, his name is Leonardo di Pisa, so he was born in Pisa, Italy. Now it turns out that Fibonacci's father works for one of the shipping lanes between Pisa and North Africa here. So Fibonacci as a boy goes to live with his father in North Africa and he learns all his mathematics from the Arab mathematicians. So people still debate today, did he read Al-Khwarizmi's book? Remember, the first algebra book written in Baghdad in the year 800. When Fibonacci goes to North Africa and learns his mathematics from the Arab mathematicians, does he actually read Al-Khwarizmi's book? Brings up an interesting question, because does Fibonacci speak or read Arabic? I doubt it. He probably speaks and reads Italian and maybe Latin. So what has happened? Well, it turns out that right next door in Spain, Al-Khwarizmi's book has been translated into Latin so that people like Fibonacci can read it. Let's take a look. I'm going to go over here to Toledo, Spain, right next to Italy there, or just down the street from Italy, I should say. And here's Toledo, Spain. Toledo, Spain, in the year 1150, what's going on is the School of Translation. And here's what happens. There's three main groups of people living in Toledo at this time: the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews. They all live in their own neighborhoods. During the evenings and at night, they go into their own neighborhoods. During the day, they come out and they work together on these translation projects. Here's how it goes. They'll take a Muslim scholar and a Jewish scholar, and they will put them together and they will translate one of the works in Arabic from the House of Wisdom in Baghdad into either Hebrew or one of the European languages. Then they bring in the Christian scholar and they have him translate from whatever language they translated into Latin. That's how all the information from the House of Wisdom in Baghdad in the year 750 and afterwards gets into Europe and is translated into Latin. It's in this Toledo, Spain School of Translation. Now, you may have read this book by Ken Follett, the Pillars of the Earth, great book. It turns out in this book there's a description of the School of Translation in Toledo, Spain. Here it is. Jack Builder, who is the main character in the story, was living with a small group of English clerics in Toledo. They were part of an international community of scholars that included Jews, Muslims, and Arab Christians. The Englishmen were occupied translating works of mathematics from Arabic into Latin so they could be read by Christians. There was an atmosphere of feverish excitement among them as they discovered and explored the treasure house of Arab learning, and they had casually welcomed Jack as a student. They admitted into their circle anyone who understood what they were doing and shared their enthusiasm. So what were they like? What were these people like that would come together to work on these translation projects, putting aside their religious and political differences? Well, they're like us. We're like them. We are the kind of people that would put aside our political and religious differences to work on things like this that would benefit other people. What would they think of what we've done with the material they gave to us? They'd be really happy. Everybody's taking algebra, so all of this stuff has become very widespread throughout the society in Europe and also in America. So I think both sides would be very happy. So this little story about why do we call it algebra ends here with the School of Translation in Spain and then over into Italy for Fibonacci's algebra book that brings all of that mathematics into Europe because it's written in Latin. So it's a long story, happens over a longer period of time. We find people in there that we can identify with, much different than what you see in the media and on the news that's kind of polarizing, puts us to one side or the other. So that kind of ends our 3 series videos on why do we call it algebra.